Tell me if this sounds familiar. You want to learn a new skill, maybe coding, data analysis, or even playing the guitar. But every time you try, it feels overwhelming. You hear people say it takes 10,000 hours to master something, and you think, well, I don't have that kind of time. So you quit before you even start. But what if I told you that you don't need 10,000 hours? In fact, you only need 20 hours, just 45 minutes a day for a month to get really good at almost any skill. Sounds crazy and unbelievable, right? Well, in this video, I'll break down exactly how you can do it, backed by research, science, and real world examples. So let's go. Most people make the biggest mistake when learning something new. They try to tackle the whole skill at once, like climbing a mountain without any plan. What you want to do is to break down the skill into smaller, manageable parts and focus on the most impactful ones first. This idea is based on the Pareto principle of 80-20 rule, which says 20% of your effort produces 80% of your results. So let's break this down with some real world examples. Say you want to learn to play the guitar. Most people think they need to learn music theory, read sheet music, and memorize 100 chords before they can play. That's an overkill. Instead, you want to focus on just four basic chords, which are G, C, D, and E minor. These chords appear in thousands of songs. With them, you can play 90% of pop songs. What's the 20% that gives you 80% of these results in this scenario? You want to learn the basic strumming patterns, master four essential chords, and start playing real world songs immediately. That's it. No music theory, no skills, just enough to play songs and have fun. How do you break any skill into sub skills? The three-step method. Step one, you want to identify the core competencies. What are the foundational skills that make up the bigger skill? Example, for coding is basic syntax and problem solving. Next, you want to find a high impact task. What smallest actions give you the biggest results? For instance, in marketing, knowing ad copywriting and A/B testing gives you faster wins than deep SEO research. Next, you want to prioritize the learning in order of importance. Which skills unlock the next level? In instance, in design, learning Figma basics lets you start designing before worrying about color theory. When you deconstruct the skill, you're making learning faster, more efficient, and way less overwhelming. Instead of getting stuck in learning mode, you start practicing real world applications immediately. So before you start learning anything, ask yourself, what's the 20% that gives me 80% of the results? Once you figure that out, you'll be learning 5 times faster than the average person. Here's where most people mess up big time. They spend too much time studying and not enough time doing. Tell me if this sounds familiar. You want to learn coding, so you spend weeks watching tutorials but never actually write a single line of code. You want to speak a new language, so you keep memorizing vocabulary but never say a word out loud. This is a trap. Most people think that if they just consume enough knowledge, they'll magically be good at something. But the reality is, you can't think your way into mastery. The secret is to learn just enough to start practicing and then correct yourself as you go. Studies show that passive learning, like watching videos, reading books, or listening to lectures, creates an illusion of competence. Your brain tricks you into thinking you understand a skill just because you've consumed information about it. But real learning only happens when you engage with the material. That's by practicing, making mistakes, and correcting them. 2013 study on skill acquisition found that active learning, that's practicing with feedback, improves skill retention by up to 70% compared to passive learning, which involves just watching videos or reading. So, how do you apply this to any skill? Let's give an example of you want to learn to code. Let's say you want to learn Python. Most people start by reading a 500-page Python book or watching hours without actually coding. Watching a full 10-hour course before touching a keyboard is something you ought not to do, or reading about coding concepts before trying them out. What you want to do instead is to learn just enough basics. That's the variables, loops, and functions. You now want to apply that into building a tiny project like a simple calculator or to do list app. When you get stuck, you Google the solution and fix your mistakes. The goal is to get comfortable with solving problems as you go rather than waiting till you know everything. The fastest learners aren't the ones who memorize the most, they are the ones who start practicing the fastest. So instead of watching 10 more tutorials, learn just enough to take action. Then start practicing immediately. Remember, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to start. All right, let's move on to step 3. Let's be real. The first few hours of learning a new skill will suck. You feel awkward, slow, maybe even stupid. And that's exactly what's supposed to happen. Studies on skill acquisition show that the hardest part of learning happens in the first 5 hours because your brain is literally trying to rewire itself. New neural pathways are forming, and that takes energy. This is what Josh Kaufman, author of The First 20 Hours, calls the frustration barrier. It's a point where most people quit because they think, I'm not just good at this is too hard. Maybe I'm not cut out for it. But here's what most people don't realize. If you push past the first 5 hours, the frustration fades. Real progress starts around 6 to 10 hours. Think of it like learning to ride a bike. Hour 1 to 3, you're wobbling, falling, and questioning life choices. Hour 6 to 10, you're moving, still shaky, but actually riding. Hour 15 plus, you're cruising without even thinking about balance. That's exactly how it works for any skill. So don't judge yourself too early. Your brain needs time to adjust. You just have to stick with it. Still skeptical? Let's look at some real world proof. These people used the 20-hour framework and saw insane results. Josh Kaufman learned to play the ukulele in 20 hours and performed on stage. Tim Ferriss learned Japanese in a few weeks by focusing on just high frequency words. Me, I learned SQL in just under a month using this exact method. This works because it's based on science and not guesswork. And if you follow these 4 steps, you can learn anything in just 20 hours. For the rest of the month, pick one skill. Commit to 20 hours, just 45 minutes a day for a month. I guarantee you'll be shocked at how much you improve. All right, now it's your turn. What's one skill you've been putting off learning? Drop it in the comments. I want to see what you're working on. And if you want to see more practical learning tips, hit subscribe and tap that notification bell. Let's make learning fun, fast, and frustration free. See you in the next one.